You are about to cross a threshold, a place where reality shifts and the familiar becomes unrecognizable. Shadows hold secrets, and time bends to reveal the unknown. Welcome to Enigmatorium.
Welcome, everybody. It's Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Kulig, and today I have Madeline O'Brien from Enigmatorium. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on the show. I know it's been about 4 or 5 months, and I know the last time we talked, we were talking crematorium, but you've done a shift.
I have. Yes,
which is why I referenced you as Enigmatorium. And let's just get into it.
Okay.
What inspired you to switch gears?
Well, you know, I had started crematorium in 2020. When I first released it, there wasn't this big. There wasn't a lot of indie podcasts. I guess there was a lot, but not like there is now. And all these branded podcasts weren't on board like they are now. Celebrities or whatever. So crematorium did really well back in 2020 and 2021. And then due to life circumstances and whatnot, and then, you know, when you're doing this sort of work, you need a break, you get burned out, you take a hiatus or whatever.
Right.
And you lose a lot when you do that. When you step away and try to come back, you can't always come back. And so I've tried to recapture that success that I had back in the early couple years and was never really able to do that. So I gave it one last push here, you know, in the last year, and it never really, even though by some people's standards, I did still get quite a few downloads, but I was putting a lot of time, research, money, you know, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I always have to have the best, you know, programs and equipment and whatnot. So I was sinking a lot of money into it. And finally, and then I kind of got burned out. I was covering a lot of court cases, and I was getting a little burned out on being so immersed in all of that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine when you're talking true crime, it can become a kind of a downer.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I got really... because I really got involved in some of those cases and they really fired me up, some of them.
Yeah.
And so I just took all that into account, the fact that it was starting to become a chore, and I was sinking quite a bit of time and money into it. So it was time to step away, and I feel good about it.
Yeah. So the rhythm that was happening from the beginning started to wane.
It
basically.
did. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I made a few mistakes. I mean, I jumped into crematorium with zero knowledge. Excuse me. And so I made a few mistakes, as you do. And
Those
you
are
know,
the best teachers, though. You know?
It is.
They really
so now
are.
I know what to do and what not to do, I think. And I took quite a bit of time off throughout those 5 years, and that's a mistake because, like I said, you know, you lose traction.
Yeah.
And,
and it was during a time period, too, I think, that people were very isolated. So there was a bunch of people starting up new podcasts.
Yes.
And I mean, I know that you know this, and most of the audience probably knows this, but consistency is key, right? Like
it is.
I fall into that unfortunate habit myself too. Like I'll go gangbusters for 2 or 3 weeks, publishing content and little reels and stuff, promoting things, and then I'll trail off, and I'm like, oh, why am I losing followers? Well, they want consistency. Like all of a sudden, I'm not in the zeitgeist of my genre. You know,
exactly.
It's weird.
Well, people, you know, their attention spans these days. The attention span is very short. So if you disappear for a few weeks, then you're sort of forgotten.
Yeah,
and they move on. They move on to something else. But I think with you, it's a little different because, you know, you're creating music. So if you're talking about your podcast, I can see if you step away for a few weeks, but you still have your music that people are going to keep turning to.
Yeah, that's true. But I think like all these things are an extension of that. And when I don't emphasize some of the cross promotion of this stuff, to the core, I think it does affect things a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
Which is why you constantly have to. That's why I'm going to Creator Fest again this August. I'm going to hit Podfest again in January, and I expect to see. There's my cat. Sorry.
I know. That looks like my old cat.
I expect to see like another universe of things happening.
Yeah.
At these, from 1 year, just because there's so much of an emphasis on some of this new tech, and it's just a real challenge just to keep up to date with that, let alone just self-promote and everything else.
Oh yeah, the self-promoting part that's the most challenging part, I think, because you've got all these celebrities and branded creators that have an endless.
Well, they have pockets that go real deep.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They have, they can. And so when you're in a situation where you don't have that, you kind of have to pick and choose. That's why I really do think this cross promotion with different creators is one of the best ways to promote your podcast or YouTube channel.
Yeah. I think community building is going to be the future. There's a lot of people out there that are using some of this tech, and they're like between Suno for music, Midjourney, and Veo 3 for pics/video and video with Veo. Just firing things out, no editing, just putting things on, so there's like this batch that's coming through the next couple of years that's just people being creative, and they're tourists, right? Because it's new tech, it's shiny, it's fun. But the real meat and potatoes is the work behind all that, right?
Right.
Like, are you telling a good story? Are you producing good music? Are you producing, good content in general that is intriguing, that gets people excited and makes them want to come back? There's going to be a lot of people out there that play around and then walk away. And then I think what's going to be left, after a few years is there's going to be a core, a small core group of people that now have added this to their toolbox, even if they're not musicians, even if they're not producers and video and content producers, and say, now I can do this. I might not be the best, but I can add it to my mix, right? But then there's going to be a big group of those people that just won't touch it again. And then there's going to be the professionals that are like, yes, these are new tools in my toolbox. They're not the only way I produce something creative, but they help, right? Kind of like the word processor was to manual typewriters and computers were to word processors.
Exactly.
There was pushback on all that, Madeline, right?
Right.
Like, people are like, the secretary pool is going to be cut in half, blah, blah. Like, you're not going to need these people anymore. Well, come to find out, you do still need people like that. Probably not as many, but then other things are going to pop up, and other positions are going to pop up, and new opportunities. There's always, when there's this hole created in the labor force, there's always new things to do. And
Exactly.
I think people get spooked, and they're like, oh God, like we're all going to be unemployed. Blah, blah. No, just if it happens too fast, there's going to be a pain period, there's going to be a pinch point.
These new tools, and I use them all now. I mean, and I love them. They're like having for me, they're like having a 24/7 assistant, and they're tools, and I use them, but they always require a human touch.
So what are you using now with this new channel? Like what tools specifically?
I use 11 Labs, of course, for all the voices, which now they've done this big upgrade where you can really fine tune the voices. And I haven't messed around a whole lot with that because I like what it's done even before this upgrade. I mean, I have two set voices that I use, and I like the way they sound, but I can make them a lot more expressive now with 11 Labs for $22 a month. And yes, you can use my affiliate code because I'm an affiliate with them. But but that aside, I would recommend that to anybody, because for someone that doesn't have the budget to hire voice actors, and I know that this sort of infringes a little bit on voice actors, but my Enigmatorium depends on these voices.
Right.
And so for $22 a month, I think you get 100,000 credits a month, and they carry over. So now,
so you actually, you get, if you don't use it, you don't lose it, which is great.
No, it carries over. I think I have 300,000 credits right now. So
I mean, that's like 4 audiobooks.
It's I mean, I think one episode probably uses, I would guess, 20,000 credits.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've got enough to last me the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And for $22 a month, to me, that's a bargain.
Absolutely.
I mean,
you could train it on your own voice. You could,
you can.
If you really wanted to not have to do multiple takes and just have
exactly. You don't have to edit it really. Mm-hmm. I do all that. I do edit it, the tone and all that, but you don't have to edit out any clicks or whatever, which is what I was spending so much time doing with Crematorium, because I'm a little bit limited on my knowledge of editing. I mean, I've done it for 5 years, so I've gotten way better, but I'm not, that's not my background. I never had any training in it. So I was spending a lot of time editing my voice. Well, you don't have to do that with 11 Labs. And I think there is still a little bit of a stigma for AI in general, creators that use AI. What do you think?
Definitely. I think it comes back to the thing I said earlier,
right?
Which is when somebody relies too much on it. Like, I'll give you a classic example of one that really ticks me off. So I could be on a Facebook feed going through, or even Instagram. I think these pop up on Instagram too. I've blocked enough of them that I don't think those accounts come up anymore. But what people were doing were like, there was this one that was going around. I don't know if you saw it. Basically, it was like a whale watch expedition or something. And they roll up on this whale and it's got all these barnacles on it. And they're like scraping off the barnacles. But it's clearly AI because it looks awful, right?
Okay,
it's just, and it's like, and just the behavior of the animal is such that you're like, no whale would behave that way, right? Like,
right.
They're not coming that close to the boat. They're not rolling over on the side of the boat like that. And, being available to be cleaned off and everything. And just the motion and everything of how it was working. I'm like, this is just garbage. Like what? So
passing it off is real.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it too, is like, I'm sure there were hashtags in there to some degree that it wasn't. But what really ticked me off was the engagement that these things had.
People,
like, massive engagement, and I'm like, it's clearly fake. Mm-hmm. But that's the worst it's gonna be. I mean, in a year or two, Madeline, my God, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what some of this stuff's gonna look like.
It is unreal. I mean, so another tool that I use quite a bit is ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love, and I do depend on these tools, and I see them as collaborators. They're, I used to have people write scripts for me for Crematorium. I did it maybe 10 or 20 times. Mm-hmm. Had a script writer, and I see chat, I collaborated with them. I gave them what I wanted. I did the outline, and then they wrote it for me at times when I didn't have time to do it or whatever. And so ChatGPT has kind of taken the place of that. Now, I come up with the ideas. I threw out the ideas and the outline for the story, but we together write that story.
Yeah. Well, therein lies the essence, like the crux of everything. You define the outline. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you pitch in an outline to ChatGPT. It gives you a body of text, and then you probably edit that one more time or multiple times until you're satisfied with it, and that's what you drop into 11 Labs. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Because if you leave it up to ChatGPT, because I'll say, let's you come up with a story here. Mm-hmm. Let me, I'm just going to give you free reign. You come up with a story. It comes up with the same type of story every single time. A lady walks in and looks in the mirror, and then she disappears. I mean, it comes up with the same concept because it's just pulling from its base knowledge.
Right. Which is vast.
Which is what's out there. It's pulling from what's out there. So it never can come up. Now I did use one story that it came up with, and I just threw caution to the wind and released it.
Okay.
Even though I didn't really understand it.
Which one was it, by the way?
It was,
You gonna tell me?
what was it? Shoot, now I can't remember the name of it. Here, let me pull it up really quick.
Okay.
And I'll tell you. It was, gosh, it was just on the tip of my tongue. It did purge.
Yeah, that's definitely a limit, right? Going into the language model.
It is limited. It is limited as far. Let me pull that up, and maybe you can watch it and tell me what you think.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I did like the video. I did like how the video turned out and everything, but it was real hard to understand. I don't even think it was meant to be understood.
Interesting.
But anyway, I'll come up with it.
Yeah.
I just can't remember. Forgotten.
Another.
No, I think it was called The Forgotten Tune.
Okay.
Where I think you commented on it. It was
Oh, yeah?
the couple at the end, they were dancing.
Okay.
The
I have to
silhouette of
revisit it.
the silhouette of the couple that was dancing. I just said, okay, I'm going to let you come up with a story. I think I had a little bit of oh, I know. I came up with the names. That's what it was.
Okay.
Mavis and Julavis Davis.
Little alliteration there. Yeah.
I came up with the names. I've got this thing about coming up with weird words and nonsense words and nonsense names, and I just throw it out there. And then this story kind of evolves from it. It's really quite ingenious.
You should start a children's channel and do like a Dr. Seuss-esque type of thing if you like doing that.
Yeah.
It sounds like you would resonate with that for sure.
Because it really has reminded me of I have been doing that my whole life where I come up with these, like I had weird names for all my kids that I called them and stuff. And then So anyway, I came up with the names for that episode. I think it was called The Forgotten Tune. And so I said, just run with it. Just come up with a story. And it came up with a story, and it kept saying, yeah, this is really, I said, honestly, what do you think of this story? And this is great. It's just, and so this was a little bit earlier on when I was still kind of getting to know ChatGPT. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm missing something, but I'm going to throw it out there. So anyway, now that you kind of know how that evolved and my feelings about it, because while it's an enjoyable video, I mean, I think the video turned out pretty good and it's kind of intriguing. You're left wondering, what? I don't get it. And I feel that way too. It's like, maybe I know I'm not as intelligent as ChatGPT, so maybe it just went over my head.
Let's clarify something. There's no intelligence behind ChatGPT.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You
can't really call it, intelligence, but
it's a giant language learning model that takes one word after the other and basically tries to answer the question to the best of its ability, and if it can't,
it's
gonna give you an answer. It's programmed to give you an answer.
Right,
so
exactly. You really have to kind of reel it in sometimes.
Yeah.
If you say, okay, do you remember this conversation we had? And then or this story concept we had, and then it'll just come out with some nonsense answer that had nothing to do with. So it does require, you can't just plug something into it and have it feed you back something that's presentable.
Well, I think 4.0 or 4.50, or I forget what the number sequence is at this point.
I think it's 4.0,
Yeah, is when they started saying, okay, you're going to look at the entire history of our chats as long as I haven't deleted them, right? Like, you're going to look at all of that as a collective, so I can reference that now.
Yeah.
And it'll get to, quote unquote, get to know you. So now there's like a mini model based on all the things you ask about. So it does that a lot less, because I named mine Echo for some reason. And so when I reference it, I call it by its name. And
it knows. Yeah.
And one time before that switch, it used that in a different way. And I'm like, hey, by the way, I think you forgot that this is what I named you. And it was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'll
it has gotten a lot. They have improved the memory.
Yeah.
It can remember from conversation to conversation now a lot better. So they have made improvements on it. And again, I don't know if you pay the subscription for it.
Yeah.
For $20 a month, to me, it's a bargain.
Absolutely.
Because I reference it about other things, just real life things too.
Yeah. Well, I go in there for medical stuff, exactly. Recipes, medical stuff, ideation on content titles, stuff like that.
Exactly.
I made thumbnails for the new project I'm doing that came out gorgeous. I mean, I literally just.
So is that how you made that one on Instagram? The one that you put No.
How
did you do that?
So that's Midjourney. This past
Okay.
Friday, Midjourney came out with a video generation that they've been talking about for a while now.
Okay.
And so you can either seed it with an outside picture, or you generate a picture within Midjourney, and then there's an option to animate it, and then there's an option to extend it too. And in all those stages, you can prompt it again. So the animation, you can guide the animation, or you can just do automatic, and it kind of just looks at the image, and based on the way the image looks and what its language model says, it figures this is what you want to have happen, right? And it's not wonky like some of the older video creators. It's really interesting. Like it'll do something with if you're sitting there meditating, for example, like, because I'm trying to build some content around the soon to be released double album of meditation, which I don't think I've talked a lot about. But,
no, I haven't heard about that.
But it's a two-parter. They're going to be called Simplicity and Complexity. So
Okay.
Simplicity is going to be a batch of non-evolving patches, and then Complexity is going to have stuff with more melodic tones to it, and maybe even some rhythmic elements. And Simplicity is mostly done, so that one's probably going to come out earlier than anything else. And then a third one I'm working on is a Pandrum album. So that's got about 5 tracks in it. And
That'll be nice.
That's all computer based so far, but I don't have it in the room with me, but I actually have a physical pan drum, and I might do some live recording, actual audio. So,
Nice.
So that'll be
You know what
fun.
you know what you should do. There's some. I mean, your music. I'm not trying to toot your horn or anything, but your music, even your comedy music, even your sillier tunes. I mean, every genre of your music, I have been able to use in something or another. It just fits in so well that I really
it's great.
don't. I really don't have to go outside of your music to find what I need for my projects. Now, I did a Mother's Day special video. I don't know if you saw that, but
No, it didn't show up in my feed. I'll take a look for it though.
it's called The Silent Hour, and it was dedicated to my mom who passed away in 2007. So, and then I had ChatGPT. I just showed it a picture of my mom, and it made this likeness of her that was just chilling.
Really?
And of my kitchen growing up. I mean, we lived in the same house. My mom and dad lived there for 50 years. I mean,
Wow.
I lived in the same house, all my growing up years. And so anyway, an old friend of mine, Jill Sissel, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's been playing the guitar in fact, I took guitar lessons from her.
Well, yeah.
And I won't even tell you how many years ago that was. It was we were children. And she continued on with it, and she's made several albums, and she's got a band. And so we kind of reconnected. We lived next door to each other growing up. She was my best friend growing up. And so we kind of reached out. And so I used a few of her tunes in that. And it made it even more special because, here's a woman that I grew up, my best friend that I grew up with. And I was able to use her music. She knew my mom. I knew
Right.
her mom. Mom and dad were like my second parents. I went on vacation with them, and we just did everything together. So anyway, that was my point is that was kind of an exception. I think I used a couple of your songs in that one, but I used 2 or 3 songs of hers in that one.
Very nice.
Just because it made it that more special.
Oh yeah.
You know what
The
I mean?
whole brought you back. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, and I think
fantastic.
that was more for I mean, I don't expect that people are really going to gravitate towards that video because it was dedicated to my mom, but
You'd be surprised, though. I follow a bunch of content creators in various genres. Some people are comedic, some people are just informative. And every once in a while, they'll do a piece that is a reflection of them personally, or it's just them being authentic and raw. And I almost feel like some of that stuff is the best. Like, it's even
Yeah.
better than their core, whatever their core channel is. It's like somebody recently did that. They were like a exercise influencer or something, and we're talking about some struggle or whatever, and something personal, and they were just very honest and open and raw about it. I was like, well, I liked your channel before. I like it even more now. Because,
right. Yeah, I think
know.
people want that human connection. And, with Enigmatorium, they're not really going to get a whole lot of that from me. And they didn't get a whole lot of it with Crematorium either, because I am sort of not really, I'm not a social media person. I'm really more behind the scenes type of person, which is,
But that's all right. There's an audience for that, right?
yeah.
And
yeah.
and there's what you're doing lends itself to that very well. So, you're not being inauthentic to who you are. You're not being inauthentic to the subject matter and the creation that you're creating. So
right.
I wouldn't concern yourself with that.
It would be inauthentic of me to suddenly be out on social media and active on social media and all that, because it's really not me. I don't like social media. I don't want to share. I'm really not an open book. I don't want to share my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
I do with close friends. Like if you and I were to talk personally or whatever, you could ask me whatever you wanted and I would share it with you. I just don't want to share, and Enigmatorium kind of lends itself to sort of mystique. I even debated on even putting my name out there with it. Because I really want Enigmatorium to shine, not Madeline from Crematorium. So I sort of regretted a little bit that I connected it with Crematorium. Well, but it's out there.
You can always rebrand. That's the thing. That's the beauty of social media and online. It doesn't take much, case in point, you literally started over and seems to be working for you, and it seems to be taking you in a creative journey and a creative direction that's more suited to who you are, and it allows you to be free because it's not tethered to something in reality. True crime literally in the title. True.
Yes.
It's real, right? Whereas Enigmatorium are these fantasy stories, and they could be based off of something real. I mean, you could base it off a concept from, an Edgar Allan Poe story or some true crime thing and twist it and turn it around and make it your own. Or any number of things, right? Literally wake up from a dream and be like, God, that was freaking weird. We're going to write down the outline for that.
You know what? That is the part of it that I just love. There are no boundaries.
Yeah.
And with true crime, you kind of have to toe the line, because you are dealing with the worst part of a person's life, the worst happening in people's lives.
Right.
And, if you come off as disrespectful or flip or you laugh a little or whatever, you're going to lose some people for that.
Yeah, it's going to be conveyed as insensitive and trying to trivialize these people's pain, right?
Exactly. And I did kind of feel like I don't want to get any hate for this, but it is capitalizing a little bit on people, on the worst part of people's lives. It is. Maybe I shouldn't say anything more about that because I don't want to offend people. True crime.
Understood.
True crime is huge, but it's
that morbid curiosity, right? Most of us, I would say, I think we're all capable of beautiful dreams or horrible nightmares, right? No matter what walk of life you come from, if pushed in the wrong direction or the right direction, we're capable of a great many things if we don't stop ourselves from acting.
Exactly.
On it. You know what I mean? Like I think about, how I'd react to somebody in my life that is important to me being harmed and what my retaliation would be.
Exactly.
And that kind of thing. And I'm like,
oh boy.
Yeah, I'd probably be in jail.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, but if you focus on that and you focus on the negativity in that regards, it's not good for your brain. It's not good for your psyche. But
it really isn't. It isn't.
It's important to know that things are happening though, because having the ostrich syndrome is not ideal to being aware of the world and the life around you. So don't trivialize it, but obviously don't pretend it doesn't exist, because there's a lot of horrors out there.
There's a lot. Yes, there is. But, and Crematorium kind of I became so protective of it. And so it was kind of my baby. And I felt every I needed to be dotted and every T, I was getting way too, what's the word, perfectionistic? No, that's probably not a word. But anyway, but with Enigmatorium, I don't feel that way. I don't feel, because I'm having so much fun just with the creative part of it. Of course, I would like it to be seen, and I'd like it to, have some measure of success. Anybody that says that they don't want that, I just find it hard to believe that people put so much time and creativity, their money into something, and then they don't want some kind of return from it. But I guess that's possible. I guess there are people like that. But
I think most people have delusional expectations, I think, of what success means. They see a Mr. Beast with 400 million followers, but they want the same thing to happen, but they didn't spend the last 15, 20 years
exactly
like unbelievably immersed in the YouTube process and learning the YouTube algorithm and everything else and understanding every little nuance down to the second of editing. None of what he does is a mistake or an accident. It's absolutely engineered to get the most eyes on it possible. And the first several years, he was pumping out, I don't want to call it garbage, but it was all testing. It was testing everything. And him and his buddies, that's all they did. And to this day, he eats, sleeps, and drinks it. He knows nothing about pop culture for the last 20 years. He's admitted it in interviews. Like, all he does is YouTube. That's his whole life. Now, me personally, that lacks a certain level of balance, and I don't think it's a very healthy way to live.
No.
That being said, I still admire and I'm impressed by his ability, but most people have to find some middle ground. And you can do this. You can create content, you can create original videos, original music, all sorts of things, and you can build a following and build a really comfortable career out of it. If the biggest thing, Madeline, is conveying your passion. I think when somebody's excited about what they do and they get on and they talk to people about it and they talk to people about what they do, and you're getting to these conversations and you going back and you listen to them and you keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this. It's infectious. It's infectious when somebody has energy and is excited to be making something new, unique, and something from themselves, right?
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons that with some of the AI tech, I've had a little bit of a cautious pause, like specifically with like Suno, right? As far as like it being the core way that I would create music. I have yet to incorporate it in any way, shape, or form into my core. I'm playing around with the idea of doing some side projects with it going into the third and fourth quarter of this year. But my core is always going to be something that I say it like I channel it. It comes through me because I don't even know that the music there's anything original about the notes or anything that I'm hearing. Like I hear things. I play a patch and something comes into my brain and I hear a pattern. I hear a melody. I hear a pad, a chord or something, and I hunt for it and I find it. And then that's the basis of what I build off of. And when I'm in flow, it comes real quick. When I'm not, sometimes I only capture a piece of it and I have to put it away. And then I come back to it and I'm like, oh, I know where that's supposed to go now. I must have been thinking about something else or in a different place mentally that didn't allow me to hear the rest of it. So I don't know what that means. And it sounds a little flighty and fluffy.
To those of us that do not have that, I'm not, it amazes me. So I was just listening to Heretics. Is it Heretics or Heretic?
Heretic, I think. I don't think it might as well be. There's like 24 tracks on that album.
Yeah, so I was just listening to that before we got on because I looked at your Instagram post. So I started listening to those songs again. And I thought, how does somebody come up with so many songs? I mean, to those of us, it's just like an artist with a painting. To those of us that don't really have that gift, it amazes me how you come up with so many original songs and of different genres too.
Well, that's the genres. So I'll do that in reverse. So the multiple genres are actually, so I don't get bored. I don't think I could ideate on horror for 1,000 tunes. I think first of all, I'd be very depressed.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff gets real dark real fast.
Yeah.
And it serves a purpose. It does the work. But then I have to lighten it up a little bit and do like what I'm doing now. I'm doing meditation. I've got a project for an intro for another season of something that requires a synthwave tune. So I'm going to jump into that the first and second week of July. But in addition to that, I've got like another 8-bit video game album coming that's really jaunty and like, light and jumpy and like very old school sounding, like 80s old keyboards sounding. Mm-hmm. So by bouncing around those different genres, and I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but it brings something new to, say, the core, which is horror, orchestral, meditation, that kind of thing. When I jump around and like test other things out, like the spaghetti western, I'd never messed around.
I loved that. I think I used one of the songs from that in one of my videos.
Yeah, there's like tumbleweeds,
I love
stuff
it.
like that, like just things like I heard in my head. I'm like, okay, well, like the old west, or like,
yeah,
like tumbleweeds going by, and I would think about what that sounds like. Maybe play a couple 20, 30 minutes of Red Dead Redemption 2 on PlayStation to
Yeah.
just hear some of the background music and that kind of thing. But I don't know. There's something about playing different styles that lends itself to when you return to one of your core styles, you now have different ideas. And
Right. It kind of unlocks different ideas, right? When you venture out. But before I forget, now that we're talking about genres so I would love to see you. I think I emailed you this, but I would love to see you take different decades of rock music, specifically the 70s, because I would love to use some of that in my videos.
like what? Like acid rock? Like what specifically?
Well, I love Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
That sort of thing. Beatles, anything off of, those are my two favorite rock bands. But there's a lot of little less known rock bands from the 70s that had, little one-hit wonders that, I don't know, you dig into it, but I would love to see you do different decades of rock music and just your own, spin on it.
Yeah, like oldies. That's another thing.
Exactly. Yes.
And all the songs from back then, 145 chord progressions. Like like it was an industry standard. Like you could hear some of the artists would come out with basically the same song,
Yeah.
over and over again, just a different singer,
But it's catchy.
different melodies.
Yeah. I love Nirvana, so anything, that you could do a spin on
Oh,
Nirvana.
some
but-
grunge. Yeah.
Yeah, grunge. I liked the grunge when it was out, but then also I love organ music.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you can do that, and violin music.
Like 2 or 3 piece, but like without anything else, just like concertos.
Yeah,
that
because
kind of thing.
it can sound so mysterious and just throwing all this out there. So
No,
violin,
you're giving me
organ,
some great ideas.
rock through the different decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s had some good rock music.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking the Seattle scene, there's several bands that came out of there that were just phenomenal, like totally different sound, not like anything you've ever heard of before. And I've talked to people recently about this. There's like the era of the arena rock, where you have these giant, like full football stadiums,
Yes.
sold out by
Yes.
like Metallica,
Yep.
or the Rolling Stones and that kind of
Yep.
thing. Like that's coming to an end.
I know.
Because
I know.
there is no style that's coming up that feels like it would engender or even demand a venue of that size and have that many people coming to see that all at once. Like that made me kind of sad and wistful and nostalgic for that era, and that, man, I should have spent more time going to some of these large venue concerts.
Oh man, me and my friends, we spent, that was back when you couldn't buy tickets online. You had to go wait in line and buy tickets. And you would just go to these big places and people are passing around, smoke. And it was just a free, and people, there's no auto tune or pitch correction or anything
people
like that.
make a mistake. It's
Yeah.
live, man.
And it was beautiful. It was just authentic and raw, and that's what made this music so real. Is when they were flat or sharp or whatever in their singing. Now everything is so pitch corrected
Well, you
and
might as well
auto
listen to a
tune.
CD. That's like,
Yeah,
which again, that's dating me too, because there's 2 generations right now that are like physical. What? A CD? Like,
yeah,
what's an 8-track?
exactly.
I grew up with an 8-track. Okay, that was in my mother's Chevy station wagon. And that's just you timed a crappy song so that you reversed the direction and you started the other one.
Yeah.
It's just stupid stuff like that.
I mean, I just grew up listening to the radio. We listened to the radio all the time, and cassette tapes, of course. But
Yeah. It's different times. And that's another thing too, is just there used to be so much more money thrown around because there were stages with that, with movies with that, or just
yeah.
you had so many more opportunities to generate income and wealth from what you're doing. And now it's like anyone that's chasing the dragon of being signed for music, good luck. I would rather do it like this and have done it like this from the beginning. I mean, so many more people grab your stuff because there's no paywall up front, and
Yeah.
and then royalty-free music means by definition it's royalty-free to the creator, the end user, and it's the platforms that ultimately have to pay me. So it's no skin off your teeth. It's no,
I wondered about that. So when you're on different platforms, such as what, that pay you?
Everything, Spotify, Apple Music, all the social media platforms, all my music is seeded into those. So if you use their editors and you put my music in there and you drop it into a video you upload, like on Reels, that kind of thing, you can absolutely do that. And you can move it around to where you want the song to start, and make adjustments between whatever background audio you have, like the narration you have from your videos, or if you're doing a quick. It's the way to make sure that platform absolutely won't flag anything, because you're literally pulling it from their library. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then every time it runs on their platform through their library, I get paid on that. It's not great, but
oh wow,
it's something.
I didn't know that. I wondered how that worked, because I was talking to my friend Jill, she hasn't really gotten into all of this. In fact, I brought you up to her. I said, you should reach out to Tim and see how he manages, all his royalty free, the Creative Commons stuff.
Yeah.
And see if he'll explain it to you, because she just gave me all of her music to use. She gave me her whole library. She doesn't have it all in one central location. She doesn't have a website like you do. And I directed her to your website. I said, you can download his music, and at the same time, you can copy and paste the attribution,
Yeah.
And so, and I'm assuming that you had somebody do that for you.
Yeah. I've got developers that spent the better part of a year designing it based on our talks back and forth, and using some other sites as, a springboard, if you will, on what to do, what not to do, and ultimately make it as navigable as possible.
I mean, it's great. It's like a dream. It's like going shopping.
Oh, that's great. I tell people I did it the way I did it because different people, different creatives think different ways when they're looking for something. And some people think in terms of tags. Some people think in terms of individual song titles. Some people think in terms of like album compilations, right? So there was like 4 or 5 different ways you can find your way to the music. In addition to when I post something on social media, I'll just do, when it's possible, I'll do a direct link right to the song. So it'll bring you right to the site and exactly where you need to go to listen to it and download it. So I mean, make it as freaking easy as possible.
It is. It's very easy to use. And do you get a lot of traffic on it? Can you tell?
Yeah. It's like anything else. There's always room to grow. But I find that when I do Instagram or Facebook boosts that encourage people to do website visits, those actually work, because I use PostHog, which is a analytics program in the background. It's free. That's not unlike Google Analytics, and it lets you know like where people came from, what site they came from, what their click.
Does it let you know what songs are downloading?
That, yes, I had to make special whatchamacallit, reporting for that. But yes, you can customize and figure out exactly what's working, what's not working, and that could just be somebody heard it somewhere and decided they want to use it. But I mean, those are analytics I'm excited to see build over time. I've only put that in place like in the last couple months. So it's going to take time.
You know what you should do? You know what I've often thought, I wish there was a way I could do a thumbs up on this song.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Maybe that'll be a 3.0 upgrade on the site.
See what songs people are really gravitating to. There's only one flaw, and it might be something I'm doing wrong on your site, is that when you listen to one of your songs, that little bar comes up at the bottom that shows you that song. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it covers up the very last song on that column.
Oh, on the list?
On the list, yeah. It covers it up. You can still access it because that bar of the last song that you just listened to is a little bit transparent. So you can kind of click through and listen to the last one. But it does cover up that very last song. Now, it could be something I'm doing. I don't know.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at your site right now. And I just listened to Dark Passage. So Dark Passage is still there. And I have no way of minimizing that. I hope I'm explaining this. I have no way of minimizing.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't experience that personally, but I don't go to my site to download. So when these things come up, absolutely tell me if it's an irritant or if it's something that.
Well, it's just something that, if you had somebody create your site, then, I'd have them fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's literally programmatically. I don't imagine that would be crazy. It would literally be an X in the top right.
I mean, I should be able to minimize or drop down that box that says dark passage so that I can see that because right now I can't see even what the name of the last song is that's on that list.
Right. I mean, the simple solution is to navigate away and come back.
Yeah,
but that's a pain in the butt. You shouldn't have to do
right.
that.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker in the least. And a few times, maybe 3, I've gone to download a song or play a song and it wouldn't play. So I don't know if it's just missing from, and if you want me to, I'll email you when I do come across that.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's, there's always the possibility that I use AWS, which is Amazon Web Service.
Right.
And at any given moment, there might be like a little update happening in the background.
Right.
Or some server connectivity issue or something and it may just be a browser issue. Any number of things can cause
exactly.
little quirks like that.
It could be something on my end.
Yeah.
But
if it's persistent,
that exact moment. Yeah.
If it's persistent,
and
absolutely.
it really hasn't been persistent. It's only been maybe 3 times where I've tried to play a song and I haven't been able to. But besides that, I mean, those are just trivial, those issues. It's really easy to navigate. You can type in a keyword or whatever. There's hashtags. It's great.
So getting back to Enigmatorium, I'm curious, it's been like 4 months now, right?
Right.
How has it been built? Like, first of all, what platforms are you using, and how has it been building an audience from scratch, doing a different, a slightly different thing that you're doing now?
I played the trailer right before I closed down Crematorium. I played the trailer there, and I still had quite a few subscribers on Crematorium from 5 years ago. So but they didn't really, not a whole lot of them followed me over.
Okay.
Now I got a big burst of listens because I advertised on, I think I told you, on Podcast Republic.
Yeah.
And now that's a deal because they showcase. You don't have to come up with any kind of blurb or anything. They just showcase your podcast on their main page, on their website, and in the player.
Cool.
So I probably gained, and you can see how many subscribers. I think I gained 100 subscribers from there, and it was $100 a month. I can't remember. It was the number. I was really happy with the number. It was like 100 subscribers or whatever. So Podcast Republic is my biggest platform that I get listened to on Enigmatorium. And then I advertised on, where else did I advertise? Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Pod News.
Yes.
They do a newsletter every day, and it's very informative. I read it every day. But they have a podcast that's called New Podcasts, I think it's called. I think I emailed you about this too. And man, my listens shot up a lot with that. But most of the people that are listening to that got that from Pod News, and Pod News is going to appeal to podcasters. And so it's podcasters that we're listening to it. Not to say that podcasters aren't listeners, because I listen to podcasts every day, and I have a podcast. But none of that really translated into a huge following. So I mean, Enigmatorium is more niche than true crime. It's a slow burn, and it's not gonna appeal to everybody. I mean, so with that in mind, I just keep that in mind. I don't have unrealistic expectations. Although I'm kind of a upward type person. I don't like to stay, in one place. I would like to see it, like I said, have some measure of success.
Yeah. But like, again, knowing that you're starting from the beginning and with this, there's an understanding, I'm sure you have at this point, knowing that these things take time. It takes time to build an audience. It takes time to build momentum, and consistency is key, right? That's why I try to get out a podcast episode once a week. There's every once in a while that I have a bye week where I have to skip it, and there's too much going on in my life. But since the beginning of this year, I've made a commitment that I'm like, yeah, I want to do periodic interviews like this. I want to do stuff with Tom Seymour so that, we're giving everybody updates, like where my music is at, where the movies that we do together are at, just general discussion about industry on both parts, and just have fun with it. Just keep the conversation going and keep things moving. I'm on enough platforms that, any one platform that has limited viewership or whatever, I don't get discouraged by that, because I'm like, well, I'm doing something I enjoy anyway,
Yeah.
And when you're authentic about that, like, it may not happen exactly when you want it to, but your tribe finds you. Eventually, people reach out to you. There's a woman in France that uses my music all the time for a meditation channel she has on YouTube, and periodically I'll be contacted by her and see updates when I go and do my gratitude days on YouTube. Which, do you know what that is? Have I ever told you about that?
I don't think.
Oh, so every couple times a month at minimum, I try to put aside a couple hours and do a search on there, like with a restriction on the time frame of, like the last month or so, of videos that have my name as a tag in it, so that I can see what people are doing, how they're creating and utilizing my music at the same time. And then a lot of times it's some familiar faces, but other times it's creators I haven't seen before, and I'll literally just, thumb up, comment, and engage their content. It helps them, obviously, algorithmically.
Exactly.
But it's also a way for me to say thank you. Hey, thanks for using my stuff. I really appreciate it.
That's nice, yeah.
And I can't tell you that
sometimes you're the only one that ever comments.
Well, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, sometimes you have to catalyze that process by starting a conversation in the thread. And then suddenly other people are like, some people are just averse to like being the first to open their mouths. And I guess I've just been a blabbermouth most of my life.
Yeah.
I just like to talk.
YouTube can be so brutal. I mean, not so much I haven't come across that with Enigmatorium, because it's been really slow growth for Enigmatorium on YouTube. Granted, I haven't really done everything. I haven't optimized everything I possibly can, even with the podcast or YouTube, because I am stretched a little thin with my in real life activities and responsibilities.
Well, then you do what you can. Right.
Yeah.
You
I
do
have a
what you can.
6-year-old granddaughter that I'm helping to raise. And so she's off school right now. And so, you do have in real life interests too. I have other hobbies that I like to do. So it's just hard to stretch yourself between all of those things.
Yeah. So then you try to find a path that allows you to do it to the best of your ability without exhausting yourself and getting tied up in the devil and the details. Right.
Exactly.
And that's really like the crux of things for me. Like that's my 85% done song composition. I could take that last 15% and make something miraculous, but I wouldn't put out nearly as much. And quite honestly, I'm not trying to compete with the top 50 artists on Spotify. I'm trying to create, beds of music that content creators, movie producers, TV, whoever can use, that's high quality. Maybe it's not the best, but people seem to like it. As long as people are liking it and they're using it and downloading it and putting it in things, I call that a win.
You really are putting out a quality. I mean, I don't even know if you realize what a gift it is. I mean, I cannot imagine me putting out any kind of content, no matter what it is, true crime, whatever, without having music in it.
Yeah, it does. A sonic background really adds something to, not that that's self-promotion right there, really bad. Like,
no,
me personally, ever since I was like 5, or probably before I had words for it, I felt like I heard, a background. I heard a score to my life.
Yeah.
Depending upon what was happening or whatever, you're happy, sad, glad, scared, everything, right? And it's just inherent in life. I mean, we are vibration, We're literally like, we're a coalescence of cells that are slowed down to a visual vibration. So it's like, music is a vibration. So it's why even animals, can, they can relate to somebody sitting there with a guitar and are singing, whatever.
I mean, no other sense, none of our other senses really can evoke a feeling like hearing. For me, anyway, I guess I should just speak for me. When I listen to music, like I was watching Rick Beato this morning, and he was playing all these songs, and it just brought me back to those periods of time in my life. And music can just enhance any video or audio to another level. And I know there's some creators that don't, I've listened to some podcasts where don't use any music, and I think, man, just a little music can just bring that up a notch or two.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to comment about was your Foley. Like, you're adding in a bunch of sound effects,
right? Yeah,
and nuanced sounds to Enigmatorium that I don't think were there for Crimatorium, and
no,
it really enhanced. Like, I thought about it not having it, and then listened to it actively with it in there, and I'm like, this adds so much more to the production,
does.
and it sounds so much more immersive. And so what are you using for the imagery? And there's video element too, right? There's things that move, or is it static image?
Yeah, when I first started making videos, because videos they take a long time, and like I said, I am hyper vigilant and a perfectionist, and I know that doesn't always come through with my work, but
well, it does for me. I can tell that you put a lot of time in it.
I mean, I go over it with a fine-tooth comb, and every once in a while, that's why with Crimatorium, I could never listen or watch my stuff, because I would pick out, every mistake or whatever. Now, I can with Enigmatorium because I'm not so tied to it like I was with Crimatorium. But like, I was watching one of my videos the other day, because they get suggested to me, and the little insignia or whatever that ChatGPT or one of them puts in the video showed up in there. I forgot to edit. I didn't edit it out. You know, even though I pay for it, they shouldn't put that little thing in there, but they do. And so every once in a while, something creeps in. But so let's see. Oh, for my sound effects, now 11 Labs does that too.
Yeah, that's what I understand. I haven't used 11 Labs in a little while. I had a subscription through, I think, like the end of last year, but I was only using it for very specific special projects, and not on a regular basis. So I was like, and I was paying for like the $5 level.
Yeah, and which is like adequate. I mean, for someone like you, that would be more than adequate, because I think you get like 10,000 credits a month or something just for $5 a month.
Yeah, and just so the audience, that's like a word, right? That's like a credit is like per word.
Something like that, yeah. I don't know. I'm working with so many credits that I don't even...
You're like, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't. And the nice thing of it, they never used to do this, but they let you have 3 regenerations of something that it's generated for you, and you can regenerate that 3 times and it won't cost you any credits.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't remember it being that way.
No, it
when
wasn't.
I was a subscriber. So.
It wasn't. It used to be every time you regenerated, it would cost you that 5,000 credits or whatever. It doesn't do that anymore. 11 Labs, they have their own library of sound effects that other users have generated that you can use, or you can generate your own. And then another good place, what's that site? Is it Pixabay that you have your music? Pixabay is a great resource for sound effects and videos. So since I subscribe to Adobe, because I use Adobe Express, I use Adobe Audition. I don't use Premiere Pro because the learning curve is pretty steep with that, and
it could be a challenge. Yeah,
and I've
don't
tried,
use it either.
And it just feels overwhelming to me when I try to use that. So I use Filmora for all my videos.
I do Camtasia, and Camtasia's really robust.
Is it really? Oh, I don't know if I've ever tried that.
Yeah.
Might have to try that.
I'll have to send you a link. It's you can just put Camtasia.com too. It's as far as changing aspect ratio and doing things like making reels and TikToks in addition to this, like editing this podcast. The timeline's really easy to understand. They have transitions. I barely touch the technical prowess of the platform, but with a few extra videos, I have it scheduled in the 3rd and 4th quarter to quote unquote train a little more on some of these platforms so I can polish even more. Like it's a constant. Do you feel this way? It's a constant battle of learning more and polishing your end work so it looks even more professional, so that when people see it, they're like, oh wow, You know, they went from here to here to here to here. You know, you always want to look like you're improving upon
Exactly.
the content you did
Especially
last year.
with something like Enigmatorium, where I do rely on special effects, I rely on filters. And Filmora, I know it sort of has a bad name and it can be buggy and that, but it's always worked for me, and I've been able to kind of fine tune it so that I think that my videos look pretty good. And I just like all the effects and everything, and they're just kind of a drag and drop. Whereas Premiere, you sort of have to manually do a lot of what I can just do in Filmora.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
someday
there's some intelligence behind the editing suite, right?
And so when you subscribe to Adobe, you get access to their free stock. So they have hundreds of thousands of free stock videos, images, and I use a lot of their free stock videos.
Okay.
For I don't pay for any of the videos because the subscription to that's kind of expensive, and you don't get that many per month. I've looked into it quite a bit. I keep thinking, oh, I'm just going to do it, but I really went into Enigmatorium for the video part of it, just more abstract videos. Nothing too specific. Now I do get specific in some scenes, but it's mostly abstract.
Yeah. So it's again, theater of the mind, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't, Enigmatorium, I grew up watching The Twilight Zone. I loved it. And that was, Enigmatorium is sort of a nod to The Twilight Zone. And The Twilight Zone was ambiguous, sort of vague. It left a lot to your imagination, and that's sort of what I'm doing with Enigmatorium. I don't want to spell out every single nuance and detail to the audience. Let them come to their own conclusions. And I'm never going to have anything bloody or gory, but I would like to do some more scary videos, like something that's genuinely scary and eerie. I have kind of evolved into doing more horror comedy type, which that's just the phase I'm in right now, but I could evolve into something else.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because third quarter I'm supposed to try to do more spooky tunes, like do a small batch, like 6 or 8 tunes.
You have quite a few spooky tunes, though.
Well,
I like Heretic. Those are pretty eerie.
Kid friendly, like light. You know what I mean? That have
yeah.
That are more like, hey, it's Halloween, and it's got woo, like it's like just like and like a boom 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 boom, almost like a Tim Burton,
right? Yeah.
Kind of movie kind of feel, like a Beetlejuice type of thing, and do something a little lighter that is more accessible to and not going to scare the dickens out of somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Heretic, it's pretty eerie. There's some good tunes on there. I really like Chokehold. That's a good one.
Oh yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's funny, I talk to people about this all the time, and I talk about how I don't get to tell people what's good, even though like there's some tracks on that album that I feel like technically were superior to others, because I know what I did in the background, right? Mm-hmm. I know how I performed the piece. I know what notes I pulled together in a certain way that I'd never done before and I get excited about. And then, it's rare that the same ones that resonate with me resonate with others.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
right?
What would resonate? That's interesting because, you have a trained ear. You have an ear for the different instrumentals, what went into it. Whereas, those of us that are just listening to it, we're just going off what it makes us feel like. Yeah. We don't really pick it apart for, this. Every once in a while I'll hear an instrument in there that I'll think, oh, well, what is that? Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I'm just listening to it and seeing how it makes me feel, and how, and it can be inspiring on what I create. So what song off of Heretic do you feel is...
I'll have to look at the list.
I mean, the ones that I really liked, I liked Chokehold. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Where's the other one? Passage? Is it
Dark Passage?
I think it was Dark Passage. Wow, I haven't listened. There are a lot of songs on there. But Chokehold kind of stood out to me because I think maybe it was Dark Sacrifice. I like that one. And the very last one, what's it called? Dead Dirge?
Oh, I'm looking at the list. Why can't I find it?
I think it had Dirge in it. Dirge?
Yeah.
Anyway,
There's denizens. That one sounds like you're like in a catacomb somewhere. But let's see, which one? Relentless. I liked Relentless Pursuit. I think technically on Spotify, that's the first one that comes out. Like in the album release, that's the first one that comes up, and that one has momentum to it. But there's padded ones that I like as well off of this. The Swarm. That one to me sounds like, literally I called it that because when I was building it out, it had this really like harsh like intro patch, and then it just fell into this like dark, deep like bed, this pad, and it felt like you were being overwhelmed by like flying, stinging insects or zombies. So, or both. So, and then with that feeling in mind and that thought is how I kind of created some very mild nuance with that patch and that song, so that it had a lead in that would be basically a sting or like some kind of cue into some scene. Like I always have this like visual thing going on when I'm writing stuff that's heavily emotional, like how would this work? What would this do? Even like the 8-bit video game stuff. I'm like, well, what kind of video game would this be good in? Is it a side scroller? Is it like Mario or something? Or is it, a modern thing? Usually a modern thing is going to be more of an orchestral thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the 8-bit stuff lends it to like really old schools, like Dig Dug and just, all these arcade games,
and the really nice thing about using your music for Enigmatorium now is a lot of it really didn't fit in with Crimatorium. There's only just a few, because I was sort of specific, I had a specific sound I was looking for that. And a lot of your music really didn't fit into that. But now I can, even ones that wouldn't really appeal to me personally, like the 8-bit stuff, the synthesized type stuff. Personally, that doesn't really appeal to me. I wouldn't listen to it, of course. But it has a place in Enigmatorium.
That's pretty cool.
It's great. It's great. That's why when I said when I go to your website, it's like going shopping.
I've had people use like songs from genres that and then they're making this content, and I'm like, that's when I do the Day of Gratitude, where I go in and thank people for using my stuff and engage their content and help them just a little bit with their algorithm. I'll comment often because oftentimes the juxtaposition is against something I never intended to do. That wasn't what was in my head, but somebody had a different perception of it, and I'm like, this is a real cool.
That's right.
Use of my music against
exactly because you can listen to someone's music and it's meant, or some of your tunes, and it's meant to be used, or with a different, you had something in mind when you made that, but then someone can use it in a totally different way and it works. But when just for reference, if you ever want to appeal more to the true crime community, which you probably already do, I'm not sure if you can gauge that or not. I was using, and I know a lot of true crime creators use Coag. I think I told you about him, COAG music on YouTube. He appeals to a lot of true crime. And then there's another one, Jesse Gallagher. He's not even, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No, I don't think I've listened to his stuff. I'll definitely listen to these.
I hear one song of his in so many creators, and he does meditation music and stuff. And in fact, I've used this one song several times of his in fact, I used it in my last video. And so, that might give you some inspiration on what you can create to further your appeal, maybe to true crime creators.
Yeah. I know I have several channels on YouTube that regularly use it. How many of the different, like how diverse do they dive into the tracks is debatable. Like the flat out true crime versus the story, like the theoretical stories. I've got one guy from over in Germany that does Dr. Zagata, I think is the name of the channel. And, he does. I don't understand a word of what's being said, even though part of my heritage is German. I don't know the German language, but I'll decipher based off of the video description, like what he's talking about. And it's usually it's like macabre stories,
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily Enigmatorium style, more like horror-esque.
Yeah.
Stories that are fictional in nature.
But that's the nice thing about Enigmatorium is I really can venture into because enigma, anything mysterious, anything, I can venture into whatever area I want. I'm not tied to one topic.
Right.
And whatever, like, I don't know if you watch Static, but I was laying in bed one day and the word static came to my mind, and it evolved into, and Static is one of my favorite episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And then the whiff of woe that came up. I don't know if you watched that one, but it's a little irreverent. I tend to kind of, I am not going to limit myself. Nobody knows who I am, so I can do what I want.
That's right.
So,
if you're maintaining anonymity, you can.
That's right.
You can
That's
express
right.
yourself. You have an artistic name.
And I'm small enough that I can really experiment. And so the whiff of woe started from me asking ChatGPT, why do people get embarrassed about passing air in front of each other?
Yeah.
Can't believe it. And then it just evolved into this. You got to watch it. Whiff of Woe and Static are probably my two favorite.
I remember I did check out Static. I think I had it in my queue to watch The Whiff of Woe, but I'm going to watch both of them again.
Yeah, The Whiff of Woe, to me, it's irreverent, but I really don't care.
No, why not?
You know what I mean?
Touch on pretty much everything. I mean, that's part of the reason I have various guests on, too, is that I want to make sure that, I'm covering all aspects of the creative process out there.
And it's just nice to be able to, because a lot of things that you think in your head, you're not going to tell it to another person.
Right.
For the most part, and so if I have something pop into my head, an idea or whatever, I can run that by ChatGPT and they're not going to judge me. I mean, it's not a person. It doesn't have feelings.
Right.
It's just going to give you its raw feedback on its analytical feedback or whatever. And then with that, you can mold that into a story. And I love it. To me, now I know some people use AI. I watch a lot of YouTube channels where so many of them are doing everything with AI. Now, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, that's probably hypocritical of me to say because they might be using it in the same way I am, but they don't put a lot of effort into the voices. A lot of them, they're, I make those voices pronounce things the correct way.
Right.
I make sure there's a human touch to every single aspect of my content. I mean, I could just give it all to ChatGPT and 11 Labs to just slap it in there and say, okay, there you go. But I don't do that. So, what was my point I was going to make with that?
Oh, some of those channels, they don't do a lot in the editing process. So
no.
In essence, you're gonna see the laziness come out.
Exactly.
And the same thing happens with the folks that make some of those music tracks. They take like the first iteration that sounds halfway decent to them without a care or consideration as to structure or the way that the various sonic tones blend with each other or whatever. Or maybe it just, there's a dissonance to it that's not appealing and it could be a better tune. But there, I mean, the thing with like Suno, I really don't know that there's another software package out there.
What does Suno do? Does it create music?
It does.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually quite good. It's quite good, which is a little frightening, and it's a little disheartening. But I've learned to understand that it will eventually become part of a regular toolbox. And there's tons of things you can do with it. You can create an idea and you can split it out by stems, which basically means, like, if you don't know what that means, you can pull it apart by like the drums, the vocals, the bass, everything. And then you can pull it into a program like Logic on my Mac, and then you can assign it MIDI information. So MIDI information, you'll take the audio and you convert it to notes, and then you can assign an instrument track to it, and then you can adjust the melody, and you can adjust this, and so it's like you can get the whole thing and produce it, or you can pull it in, rip it apart, make it your own. Now it's really you, because years ago they had software called, and it still exists, it's called Band in a Box. And if you weren't good at, let's say, like jazz bass lines, well, it had like any number of MIDIs in there of like jazz bass lines, and you could play piano over piano is my thing. So if I play piano over the top of that, I've got this bass line and it's an inspiration. Logic itself has 2 or 3 different instrument inserts that are like, it'll play along with what you have based on the criteria that you give it. So if it's an aspect of the song that you're like, I just want something basic in here, I want a basic backbeat and I want it to be in a certain style, which, by the way, like drum beats, those are not copyrightable. And there's a reason why, one R&B or one rap artist to another uses the same beat over and over and over again. It's because you can't go after somebody for that. The melody and that whole thing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That's another argument entirely. But, again, it's like it's got to be transformative or it becomes a real problem. People are like, no, you just ripped me off. But then there's times when people just literally write a similar thing. I had another creative that has a frequency channel. We're actually friends on Instagram, and she reached out to me and thought I had published her song. Well, I found her song, I listened to mine, and like the first 30 or 40 seconds of both, I was like, holy crap, this does sound like the same thing. But then mine evolves differently and hers evolves differently. But I think we use the same software patch. Basically, the same software patch and the same chord. I'm like, it's a giant universe. The fact that we both found our way to that chord with that software instrument is pretty bizarre, but it's real. So I ended up, it was shortly after I had joined up with Frequency for Content ID on YouTube, and I let her know. I was like, okay, I figured it out. I actually published my song 6 months before yours because I went through the history and everything. So mine was out there first. Besides that, I said, I'm going to whitelist your channel and it'll make it go away. I said, it'll no longer be an issue. There'll no longer be a thing. And you can, because she was monetized. So she was concerned about that and didn't want to have that affect her channel.
What do you mean you whitelisted her channel?
So I whitelisted on YouTube. It basically means like I assigned in the Content ID system, I can assign like for an individual track, or for all my music, I can just go, hey, this channel can use all my stuff and you never have to worry about them. I'm not,
okay.
It's not an issue for me. And that's basically it. And so what that basically did for her was it stripped away that copyright thing because the 2 songs were so close together that the system didn't understand which one it was.
I gotcha. Okay.
Because it uses an algorithm in the background and it listens for the individual song. Since those 2 were mine just happened to be first in the queue and it kept giving her a hard time. So I'm like, I'll solve the problem for you. We both get to keep our music published and all is right in the world. And she was like, thank you. We became friends on social media and we both engage with each other's stuff all the time.
Oh, good.
So, you know, what otherwise could have been unnecessarily confrontational ended up being like a handshake, like, hey, let's solve this problem together. Because clearly there was no ill intent on either side. So let's just figure it out,
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing too, is, I keep trying to reiterate this with my various interviews and posts and social media stuff that, gone are the days in like 2006, 2007, where YouTube was just a Wild West and you could post whatever the hell you want on there and not worry about it. Everybody's a TV station. So
exactly.
you absolutely need to give that consideration when you're posting content. And if you're using stuff, even fair use stuff, you've got to put it in the notes. You got to let people know, like, hey, I got, there's clips in here from the following resources.
I notice a lot of YouTube channels don't do that.
Yeah. But I mean, those are the ones that are going to get hit and they're going to be like, why are you copyright claiming me, bro? And it's like, well, because you're not citing your resources. You can't write a paper and not cite your resources. So then why do you think you can go out into the internet and publish content and not give people their proper credit? I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same principle.
That's why it's nice to be able to use just one person that for your, I get mostly all my music from you.
Yeah.
And I never have to worry about, because I have used music from other places in the past 5 years thinking that it was okay. And I've been gotten a copyright strike.
Yeah. And now you've got to alter your content that you've already become satisfied with
exactly
how it sounds, what the backing music is, and how it's edited and everything. And now for somebody to come back and strike, I'm dealing with that now, not only with mine, but with a couple other royalty-free composers issues on Spotify. they flicked a switch or something, and they're pulling down podcast episodes for music usage, and their argument is, the blanket argument is, it's not a music dissemination device. This isn't how we distribute music on our platform, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, most podcasts that are any good have music elements in them. So, how do you get around that? Well, they don't really have, as far as I could tell so far with my research, they don't really have a submission process to incorporate your catalog of music into their platform in a way that's like, hey, this is royalty free on the podcast side. Like, they just, my distributor just puts it all out there, and then some algorithm in the background hears it played. And if there's not a chain of custody somewhere, it freaks out, or it's the platform itself. The platform realizes it's in conflict with its music side that's playing things. It's like, wait, there's this other song in here that's being played too, but I don't have a way of tracking that. So my blanket response is just to not do anything about it. So I'm trying to effort a solution to that. That's actually what my new channel is going to be about. I'm going to start doing regular content, navigating all this stuff, and trying to help my audience and my future audience navigate social media platforms and everything with the ever-changing problems that arise.
Well, I mean, it's really kind of scary because you can come across someone that says their music is royalty free, and then a few years down the road, they've changed their mind, and then they can come after you later, correct?
Yeah, that bait and switch is horrible. I would never do that,
And
like,
ever.
Ever.
For small indie creators, that can be devastating.
Yeah. The whole point of taking the royalty-free Creative Commons path and sticking with it is just that. I'm a resource, at some point in my mid to late 50s, I'll probably have better part of 2,000 to 3,000 tunes available for people to use on the internet, ad infinitum. And again, it's royalty free to the end user, and royalties and collections of any kind of compensation to me is all happens in the back end with the platforms that they're being played on. In some cases that's advertising revenue, blah blah, whether the channel's monetized or not, but it's never stuff that is taken away from the creator. It's all stuff that would have been left on that table anyway. Specifically on YouTube, that's the case. Like, a creator that puts your music in their video doesn't have rights to the royalties associated with that music. That's never their right. They're just using it under royalty-free Creative Commons licensing. So that music, that royalty is just going to sit there unless I'm in a system that claims it. So it's very complicated, right? Like, it's a lot to navigate, which is why I was like, I probably should do this. I probably should do this in addition to what I'm doing. Yeah. And then it's kind of a sidebar.
It's confusing.
It's a way to embrace my community and let them know that, like, I'm not just shoving this stuff out there and then be like, you're on your own, like it's, hey, I'm going to put this stuff out there. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled as to issues that come up, and I'm going to educate, and I'm going to navigate, and I'll probably be wrong sometimes. Absolutely. Or I might miss something, and then I'll have somebody come in. But I think I'm of the maturity and age that I'm like, there is a solution to that. You want to share that with me with an email, blah, blah. Even if somebody's like a troll and it just gets crazy, my response is absolutely going to be, please tell me. Please tell me where I'm wrong. I would happily do a video immediately on that and express, like, was wrong about this. Here's the good information, blah, blah, blah. Thanks to user such and such. And then you make a friend, because all of a sudden, how do you not gain somebody's trust and appreciation when you're humble immediately and you're not just going to fight? You know what I mean? So, oh man. So where are we finding Enigmatorium today? What are the 3 top places we can look for it?
Right now it's on every YouTube or every podcast platform. I've made sure and disseminate it. It's on every podcast platform, any podcast player you can imagine. I've made sure of that. YouTube, and also on Rumble. And I actually get more listens on Rumble. Or more views on Rumble than I do on YouTube. Okay. So
awesome. Well, I want to put the links in the show notes and everything too. So after we're done here, we can just talk about sending me an email over, and
I'll send you an email with all the pertinent links and all that. That would be great.
And final words for encouragement for creators that maybe had a channel that wasn't working out so well, and not that was the case with yours, but had a different channel and they're decided to take a leap into another direction? You got any words of encouragement?
Well, it's very easy to get discouraged, and that's something that I have fought. And so that's why talking with different creators, because when I get discouraged, a lot of times I think about some of the things that you've said about just keep going on, so if you feel passionate about it, keep going. I think the days of the Wild West is gone now. I think the window of making it big on YouTube is sort of past, so it makes us have to work a little harder.
Yeah, but
do you agree?
I agree with that, but I also know that the ones that are going to shine are the ones that are consistent. They are constantly trying to improve themselves, and above and beyond all things, your focus can't be, I'm going to be $1 million influencer.
Exactly.
I'm going to be $1 million content creator, blah, blah. No, what's forefront and right in the face of everything before anything else, what value can I add to my audience? Period.
Right.
Because no matter what it is, whether it's entertainment value, whether it's education value, whether it's guidance, whether it's any number of things, the value add has to be there first. And I feel like between the education content and the royalty-free catalog, I'm here. This is the stuff, right? I'm doing this because I feel like I have a strong passion for all of this, and I want to make your lives better. And I think if you come from that, it's hard to say what the time frame is, but you find ways to hedge, around that in such a manner that you can just keep doing it and keep being authentic to that. And don't cave. Like, this stuff doesn't happen overnight,
No, it doesn't.
It takes years to start building.
And it may never happen. You just don't know. It may and it may not. But
are you having fun?
I do think that there is a lot of value in creators supporting each other. A lot of times that's the only feedback you get is from other creators. Because like you said, I mean, especially on podcasts, you hardly get any feedback at all. You don't really know if your stuff is good or not. You know, and so a lot of times the only feedback you get is from your fellow creators.
Yeah. I mean, podcast, perfect example. Sometimes less than 1% even comment on anything. Thumb it up, star it, whatever,
Yeah. Feedback, reviews. I don't know how people get so many reviews.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, again, somebody could be gaming the system too. And
exactly.
doing a promo.
I want my reviews to be organic.
Me too.
I don't ask. I mean, I do. I think I put a little blurb in my stuff. If this resonates with you, leave review or whatever. Because a little reminder's okay. But
sure, it's just I don't like the ones that like come out of the gate before you even have offered anything.
Exactly.
That doesn't work for me.
No.
I don't like to bother people mid subject.
No, I don't either. I don't hound them to subscribe or like or anything like that.
Yeah. I think I do that on some of the reels towards the end, and it's just, but it's.
There's nothing wrong with a reminder, but I think people turn a deaf ear when it's done too much.
Everybody wants, please subscribe, blah blah.
Yeah.
And I have fellow creators that are like, look, if it's good enough, they're going to subscribe.
Exactly.
Let the content speak for itself.
Exactly.
And your stuff's great. I can't wait to see what else you got coming down the pipeline.
Well, I appreciate that. I do appreciate your support and your comments, and
we'll have to get together just before the holidays again and do another update. Like, what's happening now, Madeline?
I mean, sometimes interaction like this is maybe the only lifeline that will keep someone going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's helpful to me. I mean, some of the feedback you've given me today has been a juice. So,
well, I want to give you one more request.
Okay.
So I hope I don't know if I know you watched it because I think you commented on it. It was an affiliate video I did for 11 Labs, and the song I did in there was a Middle Eastern song. And it had a vocal in it. She was just humming.
Okay.
Do you know which one? I think Dunes. It was from
Dunescape?
I think from Dunescape. It was one of the ones from that, and I love that song. It's got she's humming through it, and it's mysterious. I love anything with a vocal in it like that. So if you can do more that have those vocals in it.
Oh, that's Giza's Secrets.
Maybe that's it's a Middle Eastern, and I love Middle Eastern music like that. It just resonates with me in my content. So
that's from a software instrument I have called Vocalize. They had this company called Heaviosity has done 3 versions of that now. And it's a handful of female singers that have sampled their voice, but it's in such a way that it's articulated across the keyboard, so you can actually play their voice, and it's
I
really
love
cool.
it.
It's really cool.
Man, I hope you do more of that, because I love anything with that vocal in it.
I got a
It
couple
just
coming
adds-
up on the meditation album.
Good, because I like your meditation tunes
Cool.
too.
There's more to come.
Yeah.
That one I can say. I don't have any 70s music yet, but that one I can say is.
Well,
is
I can
for sure.
can wait for the 70s music,
Okay.
because there's plenty of your stuff for me to pick from.
Cool.
So
Well, thanks for taking the time to come back
you.
on again today, and I look forward to seeing more videos and seeing the evolution of the Enigmatorium channel.
all right, if you
Very
have
much.
any ideas for me, if you come up with your, in your creative mind, hey, you should do a video about this, let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, I absolutely will. I absolutely will. And I appreciate the feedback on the music too.
Okay.
So I'll have some
Yeah.
other ideas. Great to have you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Tim.